name was Suches.
Okay.
Yeah, I hiked south in 17. My wife and I moved to actually Suches, Georgia.
Okay.
In March of that year.
Yeah.
And then
So
pretty much 3 months later, I was on the trail hiking south. So, but yeah, you're gonna enjoy it. It's a pretty awesome.
Well,
experience.
I know it'll be a lifetime experience, regardless of if I'm able to pull it off or not.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
I mean, I see all kinds of stuff happens to people that you hope, pray, hope for the best, but
no, there's all kinds.
Don't be scared that the worst might happen, because it could. Yeah.
No, it's I always thought, if I could avoid serious injury and getting sick, and I should be able to do it. At least I thought that, but you just never know. I mean,
right.
There's all kinds of little things that happen along your hike. A lot of us, I guarantee everybody that's done it has gotten lucky at some point along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I fell going up Mount Washington, and
oh my goodness,
got a pretty nasty gash on my shin.
Yeah.
And needed stitches, and ended up getting the Lake of the Clouds hut, and there was a lady that was a EMT.
Yeah.
She was doing a day hike up there and going down, and I just
She probably pulled you really should have professional medical attention.
She did that, and she goes, I'm heading back to my car. She's like, I'll be glad to take you into a doctor, so on and so forth. And I was like, well, how far are you apart from here? She's like, well, it's 10 miles. And I was like, ma'am, I appreciate the gesture, but just hiked 18 miles a day. I can't do another 10. I'm not even gonna lie.
For stitches.
Yeah, and so I promised her that I would get off at the I forgot a road down there that was 12 miles away. I told her I promised I'd get a ride in there. And so I was sitting there at this little parking area, and this guy pulls in, drops 2 hikers, and I went up to him and I was like, hey, can you take me into town?
Sure.
I think I need stitches. And he was like, I can, but it's about a 45-minute ride. And I was like, see ya. Have fun with that one. I'm not going that far off the trail.
Yeah.
So I kept hiking.
You just earned a scar, and that's it.
Yeah, I was I got to Lincoln a couple days later. Thought I'd go into the little clinic they had there, but the clinic was closed on the weekend. So I ended up just hiking to Hanover and started oozing a little bit. I didn't think it was infected, but I didn't know what the ooze was that was coming out of my leg. So I decided I needed to get it checked. My doctor said it was just healing from the inside out. So that's normal. He's like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. He goes, I'm going to give you a prescription for antibiotics just in case it gets infected.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much Neosporin and I bought some, big bandages, and that was that.
Yeah.
I would air it out at night.
Right. I remember when that was the first time I went to Quetico canoeing up in the Boundary Waters, Canada, and I was trying to think of every possible, you kind of overthink it,
right?
And I certainly did that, and I stopped in the pharmacy, and I was like, I'm going to Canada. It's like I don't remember, it was like a 10-day wilderness trip. We're going to be miles and miles from a motor. It's like restricted, no motors.
Okay.
It's really, really a cool place to go if you ever get a chance.
I'd love to. I've heard about it.
So I asked my pharmacist, I was like, do they sell the medical super glue? Because I know, that's what they use for gashes and cuts, just in case somebody would fall or, like get a big old gash that kind of needs stitches, but you're not getting them,
Right.
They're 5 days from somewhere, and he's like, no, we don't, I go, well, I wonder if like just regular super glue would be okay. And he goes, I don't think you should do that, which would be an appropriate answer,
Right.
Regardless of that. Yeah. So I was like, okay. And in my mind, I was thinking, super glue, plain super glue will be fine, and plain the wound, glue it closed. It's basically all a stitch does, And he goes, I was like, well, we're going to be a long ways from everything. And he goes, you don't need to worry about that. He said, they fly over all those places with airplane. He goes, there'll be a rescue airplane. He goes, light a signal fire. And he goes, there won't be a problem. So the guy that I was going with had actually been like 5 or 6. He was like a professional guy. He had done it over and over.
I gotcha.
Knew the local outfitters. I asked him, I said, do they have like planes flying over like all the time? He said, I have never seen a plane ever up there. And the entire time I never saw a plane.
Yeah.
So I did find out if you have a life or death situation, my pastor said someone had told him what to do because he had been up there. I go, what do you do? And he goes, they have all these little islands everywhere. He said, you set one of them on fire. He said, they will come and find out. And he said, you will pay for that island, but you'll get support.
Oh, wow.
It's funny. Like, okay. Well,
So what brought you to the AT?
I heard of it when I was like 20.
Right.
At the time I was working at Silver Dollar City. I don't know if you've heard of Silver Dollar City in Missouri. It's like an 1880s theme park.
Okay.
So it's like an amusement park, but they stick with the 1880s theme, and they have craftsmen from that era.
That's
It's
cool.
like glass blowers and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I was a young and single and didn't need money, and so I was a wood carver.
Okay.
There, and we opened a sister store in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know where that's at.
Sure. So, at some point during the summer, they resupplied several times, and they needed somebody to run a truckload of, product out.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Would you mind driving a truckload?" I was like, "That'd be fun. I'd love to go out and see the Smokies." So
Right.
when I got there, for some reason there was something. I don't remember. It was like one of the cashiers had carpal tunnel, or there was something like that.
Right.
They were out for like a week or two, a couple of weeks probably, and they were like, "Would you stay and
That's
run,
cool.
like work in the store for a week?" Well, yeah, I'll be happy to stay, because they had an apartment for the owner's son, who was the resident wood carver.
I got
So, and he was like a year older than me. So I don't remember if it was him, but I was on a day hike because I poked around the Smokies all I could while I was there, and was on a day hike, and we ran, came to this spot in the trail, a label, like a sign, Appalachian Trail.
Oh, yeah.
What's that? And we were like, that's this crazy trail that goes from Georgia to Maine. People walk the whole. I'm like, what?
Right.
That's just, who has the money and the time to do that? And so,
That piqued your interest?
a seed planted back then. And
Yeah,
just
okay.
kind of.
So do you always thought you'd do it, or did you just kind of work to it?
Well, honestly, it was not one of those things that I always just like, someday I'm gonna. I actually initially thought, who would do that? I wouldn't do that.
Right.
And you know how life kind of throws life at you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you have kids and a job, and
Yeah.
you're married, you're just busy, and so by the time your kids are like in college, well then you're busy paying for college. And
That's true.
Then you turn around and it's like, well, I'm just I'm on the eve of closer I got, the more I started thinking about, it could happen.
So, yeah, that's pretty.
And once you start down that rabbit hole, you're gone. You've been there.
My rabbit hole was just the first. I mean, I grew up in Tennessee, so I went to school at University of Tennessee in Knoxville. So it's not far from the Smokies at all. Yeah. And me and my friends would go up there on the weekends and just hike around different stuff. Day hike, nothing. We fished a lot too, so that the other thing we did. If we couldn't fish because it was cold or whatever, we'd go hike. My wife, she grew up in the Smokies, so we would go up there with the kids when we got married. We'd go up there with the kids and mess around. And I'd never backpacked or the only camping I'd really done was car camping kind of thing. And then my wife got interested in the AT and started watching some of the videos.
Yeah. That was a big part of it for me too.
She was like, "Hey, let's go to Springer. We live in Georgia. We might as well drive up there." And at the time, we lived down in a little town called Sharpsburg, which is right around the Noonan area, below the airport.
Yeah.
And so we came up here, and then she kind of got me interested in telling me about the trail.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd heard about it, but I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I'll be honest with you, never piqued my interest to learn anything about it. And then she was like, "Yeah, it goes from Georgia to Maine," and some of my thoughts were the same thing you had, like, who in the world could do that or have the time. And I started reading some books about it, and I read David Miller's book, Daywall's book, and he was about, he was about my age. I think he was a little younger when he did his through hike, but we were both in our 40s. So I thought that it sounded cool. I'll get some stuff and I'll go see what it's about. So, the first hike I did was in 2016, and I called my brother-in-law, and he and I planned this little hike. We went from Springer to Neal Gap, and I was pretty much hooked after that.
Yeah.
So I was.
Yeah, it's funny once you kind of get, it germinates.
Yep.
It gets to eat you up.
It does.
You're reading about. You said you're watching vlogs. You're reading blogs. I didn't read a lot of like actual hardcover books, but you kind of an appetite to learn about it.
Well, it does kind of.
And there's so many things that you have to consider in pop, like tent or hammock and stove or no stove and alcohol or jet oil. It's like you just go down this whole.
That's where I kind of. That's where I'm kind of at now. Even after I did my hike, it's like I see all these other people doing it. Even on my hike, I learned so much on my hike itself. I mean, like I didn't know the Knorr rice or pasta sides.
Yeah.
I always cooked them in my pot, and I was when I first started my southbound hike. I had the typical dehydrated meals because I didn't want to.
Right.
I didn't want to cook. My first thought was the first week, I don't want to clean anything. I don't want to do any of that. So I bought the same Mountain House, that sort of deal. And
but if you do the freezer bag.
No, actually, you can pour water dead up in the Knorr packets.
Oh, right in the packet.
Yeah, I saw a guy do it in the 100 mile, and I was like, that doesn't leak. And he was like, nope. And I was like, so I watched him, and I was like, I didn't believe him at first,
Yeah. And they cook.
And it basically,
5 minutes.
You stir it real good.
Yeah.
And he had a, I want to say it was a paper clip that he clipped his bag with.
Yeah.
So I watched him do it, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to start doing. Yeah.
Right.
And so that's what I've done the entire time. You can't pour the water in and eat it. I mean, you got to let it sit. So it took a minute to figure it all out, and I don't like the big soupy thing anyway.
No, I don't either.
So I basically realized that I could clip it, and if I left it alone for 15, 20 minutes, it was going to cook in the bag.
Yeah, and you got stuff to do.
Right, I ate ramen.
Yeah,
So ramen to get just to start, and then
that's what
went to that.
God.
I was like, so how am I going to thicken it? And then I realized, well, you carry the instant mashed potatoes, so I poured a little bit of that in there to get it to where I wanted it, and then I later on started adding tuna or summer sausage,
whatever,
beef jerky, whatever I decided to get. But yeah, that was
See, I'm not a backpacker. I haven't. I mean, I remember as a kid in camp, we hiked, do an overnight hike back.
Like that.
That was it. You know. So, but I've never. Now a canoe. You know, I've done some wilderness canoeing, so I guess kind of some camping. But
that was the camping I had done, really.
Yeah.
Car camping, or then we do an overnight canoe trip somewhere.
Missouri, they call it floating, where you float down the river.
Yeah.
And some guys from Michigan came. Well, they might have been from Minnesota. I think they were Minnesota, and they came on a float trip with us. And we get in the river, and like in Missouri, the river, you just take off and you go down the river. Well, these guys just paddle off, they just leave us. All the Missouri police. We meet up on lunch. They're waiting for us at a gravel bar, and they're like, we figured out why you guys call it floating. We call it canoeing. Don't you paddle? And we're like, no. You just kind of let it take you. But it's funny. But
yeah, we did a lot of that.
But
Tennessee,
it's so different what you take because you're not carrying. So space is important, but weight, I don't care. You literally can bring a Dutch
cooler,
oven.
whatever you
Doesn't
want.
matter.
Yeah, exactly.
You can bring a Dutch oven and be fine.
Yeah. We do a big, my son and I have been doing a canoe trip every year. And where we live, there's the Toccoa River.
Okay.
So we've got a little spot where we put in deep hole and we take out at Sandy Bottoms. It's about a 20-mile float.
That's a fun day.
It's beautiful.
20 is a good. Yeah, it's a good distance.
We get to, there's an area there where you hit this area where the Ben Mackay comes across there.
Okay, yeah.
It's the Toccoa Swinging Bridge. So we'll camp there. It's a beautiful spot to camp.
So they make it a 2-day or?
Yeah, we'll just do a little 2-day and camp there that night, and it's been great. So we've taken several people on it now, so kind of got a little group now.
Have you ever kayaked?
My son is a big whitewater guy.
Yeah. The last longer trip I went on, I've always canoed, and they had a couple of kayaks that they brought, and it was this friend of mine and his 2 boys, and then they brought two friends.
Yeah.
So about 6 of us, and we went on a 5-day float trip on the 11 Point River, which is one of those pristine 11 springs feed into it.
Wow.
So it's just, it starts out probably about 1 lane wide for the first few miles, and then it fills in. It's about 2 lanes wide for a good ways, and then it literally broadens out into a pretty decent river. Right. About I don't know if you ever saw the French Broad, and so it's about that size of river.
Gotcha.
Yeah. By the end of it, just add water in it. But
did you do the sit on top kayak?
Oh no, they had sit in. Well, they had one that was a sit on top, and then one that was a sit in.
Yeah.
They had a 2-man sit on top, and one that was sit in. And I was just like, I like canoeing, And one of the kids, I don't remember, they were like, can I be in the canoe? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I ended up in the kayak for a morning or an afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was hooked. It's that is absolutely, you can turn around
that's what we have. My son's got a canoe and he's got some kayaks. My brother-in-law's got a couple kayaks, sit on tops. That's what we do. We've got a canoe and then a bunch of which sit on tops.
That's kind of the canoe was the
that's our like,
it was the supply wagon.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. That's where everything got stuck in there.
Everything sat in that, and we actually we came up with a pretty good. And we haven't done it, but we need to. I think it was a friend of mine. Like that's a good idea. They've got you can get a 4-man life raft, really pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Not much. And what we're trying to do is like everybody kayak, but like throw everything in one of those.
Right.
And it'll just bounce down the river with it. You pretty much can unman that thing.
That's true.
You can catch up with it in kayaks, and it's basically then it'll get there when it gets there, and you can kind of kayak forward or behind it, and around it, and nobody has to like baby the canoe of supplies.
Yeah, we just had a bunch of dry sacks, so we had stuff on on the kayaks, stuff in the we had a cooler, and I have this massive tent that sleeps 8 people.
Yeah.
So we carried that. So it's an awesome trip though. There's nothing like being on water. Water
I agree.
is something.
It's a lot of fun, and of course, like some of it is the river. Like if you've got a really cool river, 11 Point is just absolutely. They've I don't remember what it's called. Scenic Riverways Act or something like that. Unfortunate for the folks that they did this to, but they went through and like took properties away from people. Well, I don't know what they what is that? Where they can take their land?
Eminent domain.
Like that, for the greater public good. So there are like places where people had like fishing cabins, probably from the 30s and 40s that they took, and then I think farmland actually runs right up to it. So it's part of a scenic waterways.
There's a weird deal here in Georgia where it's like part of when you first put in where we put in a deep hole. It's National Forest Service area right there. But right when you put in, it's not far. You hit a stretch of the river where it's private. There's private property on both sides.
Right up to it.
And it's posted, do not fish, do not get out of your, whatever you're in mode, because
get on their bank.
You're trespassing at that point. So there's a weird Georgia law there that I don't know
I think that
how it is, but I was told they own the bottom of the river, so if you're standing...
Yeah, I think that navigable like water...
See, I've always heard that from Tennessee, the same thing.
Because the Corps of Engineers supposedly has domain over moving waterways. So if it's deep enough to navigate, it's governed by them. And I don't think you're allowed to even though you may own everything on both sides, somebody has the right to canoe or waterway down.
Yeah, that's why I think there's some weird, strange law here in Georgia, because that was the way it was in Tennessee.
I think that's a Corps of Engineers thing more than.
But it had signs. There's signs there that
But
say,
you're not allowed to get on the land if it's private land.
Well, they have signs there saying it's private and that you will be arrested if you don't abide by.
Yeah. Well,
based off of sheriff or whatever county it is, and you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
But once you get out of there, it turns into national forest, and it is unbelievable. That is beautiful. It's like you were saying. It's like a scenic waterway. So you got about an 8-mile float where there's no houses, there's nothing, and it is just absolutely the most beautiful river I've ever been on.
You know that's how it was.
Yeah, exactly.
I get up on the bank and 800 yards that way, there may be a barn and
Chestatee right here is what a lot of people are doesn't float in.
What's it called?
It's the Chestatee right there.
Okay.
And a lot of, they do kayak, but I wonder what's going on up here.
Huh.
It's not normal. They've had a wreck or something. Because we're almost on it.
Yeah, I feel about the way that, like, the folks that had that land probably was in their family for years, and it's kind of like I feel for the people that owned Hemden Hollow and the Smokies. It's like you just kind of hate that. I mean, I'm glad that the park's there and that we all get to enjoy it, but it stinks for them.
Yeah, but one of the things that they did was that they kept it essentially, and I don't know that this is necessarily a good thing, because I've got mixed emotions about the Smokies.
I do too.
Because it's a lot of there's a lot of cemeteries and stuff there from the people that were originally settled there, and then they have kept it. They promised to keep it open to the public, and so they don't charge. But at some point, it's one of the most polluted national parks we have. We got to start doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to do. And then, it goes back to the federal government. You hear about the national parks having issues with money and this and that. There's several things that you can do there that would generate some income for the park.
Yep.
And
I don't disagree.
And then you got the AT hikers that are pissed off because you got to buy a permit.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
Relatively speaking, that's not much,
Yeah.
But well, and I have read that, like, they're some of the crappiest shelters and some of the. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but that they're.
I mean, a shelter's a shelter. What do you want when you get out in the woods?
Yeah.
I mean, I was in
it's
one.
A roof.
There's one in Pennsylvania that was built. I forgot. It's like one of the oldest shelters on the AT. It is what it is. I mean, the way I looked at it, I was in the woods, so there's not really a whole lot. I wasn't expecting a whole lot. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And
the sad thing is too in the Smokies is that they have bear boxes there, which are so much easier and more convenient for all the hikers. But they've locked them, and the reason why they've locked them is because I actually talked to a ranger that told me this. He said that they were carrying so much trash out of it that they decided that the bear boxes needed to go away.
Attracted trash.
And so they put the cables back up. And that was the reason why, because they realized that with the cables, they weren't getting all the trash. So that has a lot to do with people that are hiking.
Yeah, I know that I read that they used to have chain link fence.
They
at
did,
the shelter,
and that was another problem.
And that people were feeding the bears.
People were feeding bears through the deal.
Goofy, I mean, people will come up with a way to be silly and in a creative way that you never thought of. But it's like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you would think common sense would weigh in at some point. Seems to be a little issue with that nowadays. So you're from Missouri?
I grew up in Missouri. Yep, still live there. Yeah.
So I guess that's home.
It is.
Couldn't go anywhere else, could you?
When I got married, my wife and I, my wife's got a little bit of, sort of a little bit of an adventurous spirit.
I guess.
Along with me, and so like when we first married, we said if we're ever going to be, silly and crazy, we got to do it now while we don't have kids. So we packed up everything, and we both had really pretty good jobs.
Yeah.
Packed everything up, quit our jobs, and we moved to Everett, Washington.
Wow.
And so like that was really different.
So you got the same makeup these young guys do that are coming out here hiking this trail.
A little bit, yeah.
That's awesome.
So did that it was out there. You couldn't buy a job. It was like one of those hot spots that you're gonna make a ton of money because there was a lot of building going on, and it just turned off at the end of that summer. Economy was kind of rough, and it was one of those. Oops, that was not a good idea. But when you're young and just married, like so, you're broke and don't care. And out there the better part of a year, and I did just about anything that somebody would pay me. I would, I helped unload beer trucks. I helped roof.
All right.
You mentioned doing some. Did whatever I could do to get a paycheck for a day, or a week, and stumbled onto pretty regularly working for a lady who had a moving van, in Mayflower.
Right.
And ultimately she was like, would you like to drive for me over the road? I don't know how to do that. So she's like, I'll make sure you learn.
Right.
So she had one of her drivers take me out and teach me how to drive, and got my, it wasn't CDL back then, it was chauffeurs or whatever it was back then.
Right.
Got my permit or license to drive commercially, and drove a truck for almost a year and a half or something like that. We got pregnant, and like, okay, this is not the life for a daddy.
You had to grow up, right?
So she got so pregnant she couldn't ride in the truck anymore, so that she stayed back at home, and we had met in the Branson area.
Okay.
So
Is that before it is what it is now?
you know what? It's
Or
funny,
was it always
because
like that?
when back then we thought, if we'd have only known, 15 years ago, what this was going to turn into, and back then it was nothing compared to what it is today. So we actually did know what it was going to, we just didn't realize that it was going to keep growing like it did. No, it's not. It wasn't like it is now, but it was, 10 times what it was just a few years before.
Right.
And, so anyway, we moved her back, and I did, I think, one more pull all the way across the country and back, and then hung up my hands as a truck driver and started wood carving again for a living for a little while, and then ended up going to work for Dowell as a truck driver. But they did oil field service, and they were one of the subsidiaries of Dow Chemical.
Okay.
Oil patch played out, and I got a job with Dow Chemical as an apprentice electrician, and they put me through an apprenticeship. So I ended up as an electrician, and actually did like almost a 30-year career before I got downsized. But just kind of turned into a regular job kind of guy instead of running all over the country and doing crazy stuff.
I know when my wife and I first we got married right out of college and had our son, and I remember she was like, we don't have anything except for 2 cars and a little bit of this or a little bit of that. She was like, why don't we just sell it all and go to Ireland and live?
Oh, really?
I was just like,
And did you?
I wished I've looked back on that so many times and thought,
wow, that's
how
pretty
much different my life would have been if I'd have done that, and how much. No, I didn't. I'm way too. I was way too conservative for that. I mean, I couldn't just.
I was gonna say, man,
bail.
that's.
But I look back on
I
that.
thought it was gutsy.
I look back
Ireland
on that now.
would
Just wish we had
A few years ago, we took a trip
pursued
to
it.
Ireland.
If nothing else,
Ireland
for just a
is
year. I mean, just 6 months.
It is
something.
so pretty. It's absolutely was a trip of a lifetime to go to Ireland.
That's awesome.
Have you been?
Never been overseas.
You got if you
well, I
chance-
mean, I've been like to the Caribbean, but
Yeah.
I've never been outside of that. I've never been to Europe or any
I've
place
not been
like
to
that.
Europe. Ireland was.
I would love to.